Tuperas y tuperas. Today on Dupe by the River, we had a busy week, so we're going to start off by talking about what happened on Wednesday night at home against Charlotte as we look ahead as the boys stay at home at Subaru Park. This weekend, they'll be hosting Montreal CF, and we'll talk about what we will think will transpire on Saturday night. Ladies and gentlemen, don't you dare go anywhere because you do not want to miss this episode of Dupe by the River. Now let's get it started, guys.
Dupe by the River
doesn't do anything well. There is not one.
I'm sorry. There was no creativity.
As a Union fan, I take that all day.
Another DP. We need to go get Mario Balotelli. And that is right. Welcome, everyone, to Dupe by the River, the show where we follow everything Philadelphia Union. And, of course, we are brought to you by Philly Sports Network. Before we dive into today's episode of Dupe by the River, I want to welcome everyone in, whether you're watching live on Parasol Philly's YouTube channel. If you're here on our Twitter account, thank you so much. Make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe here on YouTube. Make sure you guys follow here on Twitter. And, of course, you can find us wherever you stream podcasts. Find us under Dupe by the River Podcast. And, of course, joining me, as always, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my partner in duping, Justin, Formation Change Guru Friedberg. Justin, what's happening, brother? Dude, listen. Yo, we get Messi in this league? Are we going to get Messi on the banks of Delaware?
Listen, I miss a podcast or two, and, the whole league decides to take silly season to a whole new level with, reports, one, Phil Neville getting fired, which, thank fuck the Lord, that man's out of a job.
Miami's rejoicing.
Messi potentially being split between Barcelona and Miami. Like, I don't know. It's a whole lot of what in the hell is going on. But hey, I'm here for it. It's why this league is my favorite league, because it's never a dull moment.
Never a dull moment whatsoever, man. Obviously, look, it'd be pretty cool to see Messi, one of the GOAT, probably the GOAT of the sport, in the United States again, kind of like back in, was it 70s when Pele was here with the Cosmos. So it kind of brings a little bit of that flair in there. We'll see what comes with Messi. Obviously, the Neville news definitely has to have implications with Messi coming here. I mean, like, what else could that possibly mean? But, dude, like, I have to ask here, because the player of Messi's magnitude is the biggest since probably Beckham, you would say, right? Just the global recognition he has and the talent that he is at this point in time of his career. But, like, obviously, like, the DP role has changed. Like, when we were growing up, dude, like, yeah, you had Beckham, you had Titi Henry, Rafa Marquez, guys like that coming in here. And now, like, it's like, Union are spending money on the DP on guys like Michael Urre. And you're getting younger players, guys who are kind of, maybe not household names in Europe, but players who still have a bright future. And, like, kind of like, what is your thought, like, on the DP role changing in 23?
I'm here for it. I think obviously you talk about David Beckham kind of being a game changer in terms of the level of person. Now, I think you kind of have to take the obvious of Beckham was like a European well-known name, but in terms of global icons, you can't, like, you have to go back to Pele in terms of someone who was an iconic global superstar. I mean, to an extent, maybe El Pibe, Carlos Valderrama was kind of a big name in these circles. Diego Maradona obviously only came over for, like, friendlies. So, like, there were players who have obviously played over here, and
Eber's probably the last one that had brought that kind of lore.
But I think to the level, I don't think anyone's ever. Again, Messi has basically won, like, every trophy possible for him. Like, every, I mean, it's ridiculous. And yeah, listen, would a superstar of that level change the league? Yeah. But I think you're seeing, especially in the last especially the last decade, you're seeing a change towards, young DPs, guys like the Miguel Almirones, obviously the
DP.
Denny Bowangas, the Diego Rossi's, like, and obviously, yeah, you have sometimes the Carlos Velas. Obviously, you're seeing what happened in Toronto with the Insignes and the Bernadeschi's and like dumpster fire. I mean, don't get me wrong, it gives me more of a validation for not liking Bob or Michael Bradley. But I think you're seeing, especially in the last few years, you've seen the influx of what we call the young DP slots, which was Julian Carranza currently occupied for the Union. You're seeing that under 22 initiatives with that kind of money. So that's how a number of teams are getting some of these big players that may turn out well or may not. Like, that's kind of the gamble and so far success that the league is going on is, hey, there's talent all around the world.
Yeah.
In this country that may not be going directly to Europe right away. But you know what? Give them a few years, give them within 5 years, and they'll easily blow up, to potentially bigger than they would have been had they gone directly to Europe. And I think it's also revitalized people's careers for people who may not have been doing, well other places or may have needed that a little bit of an extra boost. So, yeah, while having someone like Messi could potentially come to this league is amazing, it's something that I think you realistically, can't, say enough positive things about.
Right.
I think it's not the same kind of lifeline that the league would have needed around the Beckham days. I think in the last 15 years, this league has absolutely grown exponentially to a level that I don't think anyone who was there in the early days when the league nearly folded in on itself would have ever thought this would have come to. So it's like it's something that, yeah, okay, we can be like, yeah, this is a great step for the league, but it's kind of an added bonus, like a luxury more than a necessity at this point.
And I mean, like the way this league is changing and the philosophy and how you use the DP, it only has lent to better quality of soccer. I mean, gone are the days of you calling us a retirement league. And yeah, the quality of the sport in 2013 is completely different now in 2023. And it's because you have this emphasis of development and guys who are hungry and who want to excel their career. And, I always say, like, treating it like college, like, how, like, like you have your Penn State football fans, and when they see Saquon Barkley and Micah Parsons going off, like, they get all giddy. It's the same way when I see Brandon Aronson and Mark McKenzie over in Europe, which Brandon Aronson's a different story for another day as well, brother. But this is definitely cool to see the kind of the change of the DPs. But at the end of the day, Justin, if Messi's calling on your league, you're not saying no. I mean, it's Lionel Messi. It's one of the GOATs. But dude, Miami doesn't deserve what's going on right now in the sports scene. Why is this city getting a Stanley Cup contender, an NBA final contender, and now they're about to get Messi? Justin, what are we doing wrong in Philly? Why? Oh, man.
I mean, I don't know. We got cheesesteaks and water ice. What global superstar doesn't want to come here? All right, listen. If they don't want that, I don't think that's the kind of caliber of character that we want in the city.
Dude, seriously, man. Seriously. But we'll see what transpires. Definitely freaking dope. But hey, you know who's probably going to be excited to face off against Lionel Messi, brother? Well, that's El Brujo Martinez. And he will be here for a little bit longer, Justin, as the Union inked up his extension through 2025. We have an option for 26. But obviously, Justin, you know me. I'm happy for this one. You know my love for Brujo Martinez, and he's been very important for what we have been doing. Obviously, we love getting into it with Zach. We miss you, Zach, as well. But no, I mean, for me personally, Justin, like, this is another one of those moves that's like an Ernst Tanner Union move. You lock up the guys who are here, and look, that doesn't mean that there couldn't be deals later on down the line, but you kind of secure a little bit more. Now, I don't feel like it will be one of those guys to make that jump to Europe now, but we'll see. But definitely important to lock up that rock in the midfield, brother.
Yeah, listen, we love Zach, and we know his feelings on El Brujo, despite some of the deficiencies in his game. Yeah, despite some of the deficiencies in his game, he is easily one of the best sixes in this league in terms of being a pure destroyer. Like, yeah, does he sometimes stay in the ball too long? Occasionally, leading to turnovers on goals like the goal against NYCFC? Yes. But for the most part, you know what you're getting. You're getting someone who is going to let the other midfielders focus on their roles and simply allow him to. I mean, and he's become a better passer on the ball. We've seen his ability to spring the counter. One thing we do not have to worry about is his ability to score a goal. Because I'm not sure if you saw the tweet I was quote tweeted in a little bit earlier today. So fun fact, at least this was as of what was this tweet? As of 10 a.m. this morning, they were comparing Sean Zawadzki, who has scored 3 goals from 3 MLS shots. On the other side of this, as this tweet says, from Elliot McKinley at ET McKinley, who is a soccer nerd at Analysts Involved and Massive Report. He has said that on the other side of this, Philly's Jose Obrujo Martinez hasn't scored in 99 MLS shots. Given that all but one of those shots were taken out of the box with low XG, he had an 11% chance of scoring 0 goals from those 99 shots. I mean,
it was close Wednesday.
Thank God we didn't bring him in for his offense, because as I tell this story all the time, I was in Minnesota in October of 21 for the Union Minnesota game. 3-2 loss, very good game. And early in the first half, I had seats about like second row, a little bit to the right of the net, and I was sitting with some lovely Minnesota fans, and they saw Obrujo get onto the ball in a decent position outside the box, and they're like, "Oh no!" And I looked and I said, "Oh, is that number 8? Yeah. Give it about 2 seconds, and it's not going to be a problem." They're like, "What do you mean?" And he shoots it right into the wonder wall, and I said, "Yeah, he's not exactly known for his offense. That's not exactly why we have him on this team." Listen, I think, like I said, the parts of his game in terms of the offense, bringing the ball forward, he still has a little bit to work on. But he overall, his ability to control the midfield, to shut down opposing attacking players, make life a living hell for them, harass them, just as some people say, that general ability to just be absolutely psychotic on the field, but also like one of the nicest people off the field. As I love with Obrujo, that is
always good.
That is an interesting switch that I don't know if I've ever turned on or off. But when it comes to someone like Obrujo, I think, yeah, people might not love sometimes his recklessness, but you notice the difference between him on the field and him off the field. Obviously, missing someone like Ali Bedoya, we talked about last game, you can at least semi-replace him or kind of work around the way that he plays. When Obrujo's not in the lineup, it's really tough to replicate that. Now, Jesus Bueno is doing a decent job at starting to fill that, but Obrujo just does things sometimes that you like. It shouldn't be. It's almost incomprehensible. Of like, it doesn't look like it should work.
Yeah,
and yet it does. And I think having him here, especially after the rumored interest, I know with Besiktas in Turkey was kind of the biggest rumor, and that one, it felt like it had a little bit of legs. Like, I know Tommy Bogues did do some reporting on it and said that there was some truth to it. Like, obviously, it must have been just like feelers and initial conversations. At this point, more than anything Kai Wagner's had at this point. But at the same time, I think it's Obrujo is kind of the, like, you talk about the passion of this team. I think he may not be super vocal, but his presence, his physical presence, is felt on the field. And I think it's something that you look at the way this team is, and it's something that's tough to replace. And I also think he is one of the main reasons why you have gone on this very, very good run of league play. You know, as we talk, you know, as I don't want to, you know, rub it in, but I may eventually. That, you know, this team is correcting the a lot of the big problems that we're playing in early in the season, and you know, Brujo has definitely been a big turnaround factor in this for sure.
Yeah, his health is really important. When you have a portion of the field where you don't have to worry about because of what he does, it's huge. In a league where number 10s are the highlight, he does a great job at defending those as well. Love the fact he named his child Jack. All right, that's fucking awesome, dude. That is so awesome. He named his
Jack
kid
McGlynn, Jack Elliott, we don't know.
Dude, he loves it here. He's made this is like we talk about those players that'll make Philly their home after their playing career. Like I feel like that'll be in Brujo, and we hope that does happen. But I really quick, because we have to get into Charlotte. I really quick want to talk about before the Charlotte match. So yesterday, obviously, we had, you know, the whole tradition now, the drum banging, right? You always have the special guest who's going to be banging that drum. So the Union yesterday decided to pull out a fan favorite here of Philadelphia. It's not just the Union. It's not just, you know, one Philly sports team. This is a Philly fan favorite. Jason Kelce ringing the bell. And, like, Justin, I know, like, this is, like, still young. You know, you had Tyrese Maxey doing it. Jay Wright did it. Alex Morgan did it. Carly Lloyd did it. I'm sorry. But this one, Justin, was the best one yet. And more importantly, Justin, like, you know, Wednesday matches are hard to get people out there. It's hard to get people up for a midweek match. Dude, I felt the energy from him, and I think people did as well. And obviously, you see him bang the drum or bang the mallet, and it bent. You guys can tell that mallet got bent. But the way he puts the mallet down, and then he does the most Jason Kelce thing that he possibly can, and chug a Coors Light. Like, this is awesome. He's singing "No One Likes Us, We Don't Care" in the stands. Justin, like, you were there, like, that was the energy down there, like, with Jason Kelce before the match.
It was wild to put it mildly. Like, the funny thing was, like, you know, he was talking it up with the SOBs in our corner, and I saw him put that beer in his back pocket, and I was like, and I said to Tim, I'm like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if he pulls out that beer after he bangs the drum and he chugs it, and he's beating the drum. I thought he was gonna put a damn hole in the drum.
I thought it was done. The tradition's over.
Like, yeah, dude, like they have to scramble for Saturday because he beat the shit out of the drum. Yeah, like, you look at that drumstick and it's like, whole, like, yeah, that thing. They even said the pictures. Like, that thing was bent. Yeah, like, Wednesdays are typically harder games for crowds to come out to. The past few seasons, I definitely noticed that the Wednesday games have actually been better, which I feel like is a sign, obviously, of the team being good.
Helps to win, yeah.
But yeah, like, Jason Kelce, that kind of vibe, like, and, you know, he was in the river end leading chants, and, like, that's just, if that isn't, like, true Philly,
He gets it.
I don't know what is. Like, that he epitomizes everything about this city, like, all the great things. You talk about how hardworking he is, how genuinely good of a dude he is, how much of, like, just fucking relatable he is. Like we saw his wife was standing, you know, near the river end with their baby, and, you know, there's like, and there's her husband beating the piss out of a drum and chugging a beer and, like, related to the city. It's just like, he is, like, I know he's not from Philly, but he is Philly, man. Like, that, just the vibe. And, like, I laughed because I was talking with Tim. I was like, you know, there's the pictures of them talking it up, and I'm like, you know, like, like Jim talks about, like, yeah, he's a coach of a professional soccer team,
Oh, he
but
loves
at the end of the day, he's just a kid from Philly. Like, he was probably geeking out. Like, he's talking to a Super Bowl champ, probably a future Hall of Famer.
Probably one of his
Like,
favorites.
exactly. Like, I think he was probably had to rein in the cheese, a little bit of but like,
He's
I think
allowed.
that's just like, but this is the type of thing that the union have been going for, and like, you know what? Yeah, that is exactly the type of stuff that really brings people out and really brings everything together as a whole.
That's so important because, like, you see, like, the bell ringing for the Sixers. People make articles about who's going to ring the bell for Game 3, Game 4. So it's so important. Obviously, Union creating their own tradition down in Chester, and hopefully we continue doing this, bring some more Philly athletes, former Union players as well. So it is definitely freaking dope. But let's get into a little bit of the match. Obviously, the same lineup. We'll talk about that in just a second. But one goal here. Gazak gets the header. They call it an own goal, and Kalina is what it is, but that's kind of the difference maker. I want to start off real quick, Justin, with the offsides calls. Obviously, you had one in the first with Ure, so one in the second in injury time with Gazdak. For me personally, Justin, first one I can deal with. The second one, I just did not understand the call whatsoever. What are your thoughts on the offsides?
So the first one, Tim and I were talking about this, and I think the conclusion was because it was rolled off sides on the field, it was held as that. I think if they had called a goal on the field, I feel like they would have been hard pressed to overturn it. I can't stand by that because the more I look at that, it was super tight, and I think if it's called a goal, I don't think you're clear and obviously returning it. And I think because it was called no goal on the field, I think you didn't have enough. Now on the second one, that one's a little more clear cut. Daniel's offside on the initial play. The ball deflects and it comes to him. He is still in that offside position. It doesn't reset just because they blocked it. So that one was tough, but because he was already in the offside position when the ball came to him, unless they had purposely played it backwards, which that obviously wasn't, then it would have been onside. But the second one was a little more clear cut. The first one was just, man, if that's called a goal, then it's kept a goal, but it wasn't, so it unfortunately didn't.
Okay. All right. Well, obviously that was a big part of it, but I thought overall the attack did look pretty solid. Again, they had their opportunities. I give a lot of credit to Charlotte. I don't think a lot of people are giving credit to Charlotte. It's kind of hard to come up here. It's tough to play in Chester, and I thought their effort was really well. Obviously, they're missing a number 9, and Enzo Copetti is out, and that's kind of a big deal. Shadursky's not getting by our 3 guys at all. But with that said, a big topic of discussion right now, Justin, is the lineup. And, I'm hearing Jim after the presser. It doesn't sound like he's enamored with the three-man back line, but obviously it's not really about the formations, it's about the philosophies. We always hear him talk about that. But for me personally, I don't think you should be running this every single time. One of my main gripes early in the year was the tactical flexibility. But for you, man, like, why is it that this lineup is working so well compared to the diamond earlier in the year?
So I think the defense did a really good job of nullifying things. I think also not really fully stated the importance that one of their other main players, Joswiak, was also out injured. Ben Bender was not in the lineup. Justin Miram did look dangerous, but I think he definitely was shut down a bit more than he has in the past few games. I think. Listen, I think obviously Jim's preferred is the back 4, but the tactical flexibility of the back 3, which, yes, for all of my friends that listen to this podcast, it is a damn back 3, is a back 5 when not in possession, but a back 3. That kind of gets lost in the translation here. But I think the back 3 allows Kai and Olivier, when they're playing, to go up and really have the freedom to play kind of. Now, obviously, when you don't have someone like Brandon Craig is that like I think you would have in some cases maybe when he's back in the U20s, I think maybe if you're playing the back three more consistently, I think you potentially give him a run in this. But the back three allows you like your center backs can kind of flow and be staggered, evenly apart and give themselves plenty of room to step up. Each center back, really Jack kind of seemed like he was hanging back in the back three, and Damian and Jakob were the ones pinching up. We're recycling the play, and I think what it does is it actually allows you to keep more possession of the ball. In the first half, I mean, we saw the possession stats. It was like some 56% to 44, and like it said like Andre had one save, and I was saying to Tim, I'm like, do you remember Andre making a save? Like we had to kind of think back, and we're like, was this considered a shot? But I think you are seeing more tactical flexibility. I think in prior years, Jim would not have even remotely considered the back three. And I think, yeah, he might not love the back three, but as I've been saying for years, and I'm so glad that the team's finally doing it, you're seeing that we've had the people, the necessary components for back three this entire time. I just think you didn't have the offensive capabilities. I mean, listen, when you have, Julian and Mikael, Ua was getting in those channels and really creating havoc. They were pressing Kalina. Gazdag was able to kind of float in behind and provide a secondary press. There were moments where, yes, behind that front three and in between, the midfield and the defense, like there were pockets of space, but you had the defense in front of that. Like it wasn't like they were spacing behind. Any space in behind was covered by the center backs. And what this formation has allowed more offensive freedom.
Yeah.
And kind of allowed, Brujo and Gazdag to really control the various aspects of the midfield and just allow players to get forward a bit more. So, yeah, Jim may not necessarily love the back three, but it gives him – listen, the diamond, he admitted the diamond was getting found out by teams. And I think this back three allows you to switch things up because, again, you can always go back to the back four. You can always change it to a 3-4-3. You can always change it to, there's freedom within that back three if you want to. And you haven't had this freedom before. So it is something that, it's also one of the big reasons why we were talking about. You've gone, 8 undefeated in the league. You talk about since the Chicago game, you have not, was there an ugly draw against DC? Yeah. But you've won some ugly road games. You've taken care of some decent opponents. And again, for all the people who were freaking out, the Union are currently in third place, 1 point back of second. Yeah, okay, you're out of Champions League. What do you fucking do? LAFC, you would have thought they won the game with their 2-1 road loss at Leon. And yeah, you crashed out of Open Cup, but you're not as bad of a team as you were when the Open Cup mattered to you more. The team is starting to really play well. They're getting it done by any means necessary. And you're getting hot hitting the summer, and that's the kind of time when you want to get hot.
This is very true. You brought up something very, very, very interesting about the 3-man back line and freedom. It's the one thing I really do notice, that these guys have a lot of freedom to roam out there. Jim, during our rough stretch, he emphasized the fact that he wants his guys to go out there and take those risks. And what this formation does is allow those guys to take those risks. We've seen Damian Lowe go all the way up into the forward line. You've seen Brujo Martinez help on the high press as well. I've seen little different things like that. What's more surprising to me, Justin, the two pivot midfielders, Flock and Martinez, how well they have worked together as those pivot midfielders. And that to me, that's been the main surprise so far. And I didn't like, especially like I knew Martinez could cover that ground, but Flock was a little bit more surprising to me. And then just having like, Wagner or Beisel/Harriel being able to go up and be able to help and create the attack at any time. I think that's what this 3-man back line does create. So definitely a different card that they can throw out there. And for teams, you gotta plan for everything here now with the Philadelphia Union. Hopefully with Ali back, you can probably implement back in the diamond midfield, and we'll see what happens when Ali does come back. Justin, you ready for Montreal, man? Ready for Saturday night?
I'm ready. I'm ready for I'm ready for a bit of listen. Going up to the Olympic Stadium is always difficult, but playing them at home, I would feel just a little bit more comfortable.
It should be a lot of fun. It's going to be Justin's weekend night, so he'll be going a little bit more crazier. But guys, as always, to help us prepare against Montreal this upcoming Saturday, please welcome our dear friend from the Ball is Round podcast. Welcome back on in, Miss Eve. Eve, what's going on, girl? How are you?
Hello, gentlemen. Thank you so much for having me back again. I'm so excited talking to you. It feels like it's not been too long.
I know. It really hasn't. And they did this last year, too. I feel like they didn't put too many weeks between our home and away matches. But
I agree. I just want to check. Can you hear me okay? Because I do have some house guests at the moment.
We're all good. No worries. We appreciate you coming in, Eve. You're crystal clear. You sound crystal clear.
Fantastic.
But Eve, what's new? How are you? How are things up in Montreal so far?
Well, actually, weather-wise, it's been a beautiful week. Unfortunately, injury-wise, different story for Montreal. Okay. So good news right off the bat for our friend Justin, because I always think of you, because your favorite bastard, Sam Piet, is out with a pretty long-term injury. Ramel Kyoto, same story.
Saw that.
Oof, all right, that's saving 2 red cards in the game. All right, Montreal might be off to a good start there.
You wish. No, Montreal's actually been okay red card wise. It's been a hot minute since we had a red card, and the last recipient of a red card got stretchered off the field last night. So,
all right, so we have to ask right off the jump, because it's no secret that Montreal over the past couple of weeks have been one of the hottest clubs in the MLS.
And cold, yeah.
Everyone wrote them off at the beginning of the season. You went on a little bit of a run, and what kind of change in the midst of that? Like, what was bringing that success on?
Definitely, I think Montreal, I want to say they came out the winning side of the Kamal Miller, Bryce Duke, Ariel Lassiter trade. Obviously, we just saw today Phil Neville was thanked for his services. But that being said, I think that definitely brought an extra dimension to the midfield for Montreal that was sorely lacking, because Matko Miljevic was out injured on a long-term injury. He's just returning now. He's just played his first kind of he hasn't even played a full 90 minutes for the club yet, because he's returning from surgery. I think that was a big impetus as well. Hernan Lozada definitely learned to manage his team a lot better than early in the season. A lot of his halftime changes have been incredibly effective for this club.
So it just seems like Lozada is slowly figuring out his guys. I mean,
exactly.
That was a big trade for sure. So how has Duke and Lassiter kind of fit within the mold of Montreal?
So you know what? I feel like Bryce Duke was kind of the talking point of the trade, right?
Right.
Because it was Kamal Miller and $1.3 million in GAM to Miami for Bryce Duke and Ariel Lassiter. And I really feel like Bryce Duke was the talking point, and definitely in his first few matches, he was really dynamic. Like I said, there was definitely a spark that was missing from the Montreal midfield, especially post Georgi Mihailovic's departure. That being said, he has definitely quieted down a lot in the last kind of 2-3 weeks for sure, because there have been so many matches. But Ariel Lassiter, I think he was almost like, I feel bad saying it for him, but it kind of feels like it. He was almost kind of just like Oh, hey, also we'll send you Ariel Lassiter if you want him. And he's actually proved to be really effective. He has been a very versatile player. So we've seen him play both at the striker role and at left wing back, which Montreal still does not have a true left wing back. So if Philly's like looking for any areas to target, there you go. Last night, though, Ariel Lassiter scored the game tying goal against DC from a 2-0 comeback, and he also scored the goal that sent Montreal to the Canadian Championship Finals.
That's right. You guys are busy with different competitions as well. That's definitely
Yes.
something I'm for.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm honestly, I'm sure we're gonna talk about it later, but I fully expect that Montreal is gonna send an extremely rotated lineup into Philly this weekend because the Canadian Championship, is June 7th, the final.
Oh.
And it's in Vancouver. And obviously that's a trophy, that's a CCL berth. Like
Hell
there's
yeah.
you know the drill, right? You go all in.
So you're playing the Whitecaps in the final.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. Yes. And they're also in pretty good form right now. I mean, they spanked Montreal 5-0 earlier on in the season. So I fully expect like you are going to see some guys who are like, who's that? And honestly, a lot of like casual Montreal fans are probably going to say the same thing. At least that's what I'm hoping for Hernan Lozada, because I sincerely hope he prioritizes Can-Champ.
That is true. That is true. So I guess now I have to ask Justin. Justin, I mean, after hearing that news, I mean, should we be expecting some rotation here as well from the blue and gold? I mean, Justin's got to be looking at this as well.
But that's 3 kind of quote unquote easy points, right?
We
girl.
we said that about DC, and that was now I think the only rotation that you may see again is the question of, does Jim want to keep the back 3 or does he rotate it back to the diamond? I think it'll also depend on if Ali's back. They said Wednesday was always going to be a stretch.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like realistically, because going into the next few weeks, you have San Jose away next week, and then it's kind of quiet, and then you have a couple road games where you come back home against Inter Miami at the end of the month. So I think this is probably the best game to if Ali comes in. Maybe one of the only rotations you see.
Could I ask a question? Do you guys expect to see a lot of players called up for Gold Cup? Because that's also starting this month.
Andre would probably Andre and Damien would probably be the only two that I could think of.
It's like my least favorite thing about MLS is that we don't pause for Gold Cup.
We're missing players from the under 20 World Cup right now. So
right. Okay.
So I would say Damien and Andre might be the only two.
Okay.
That's what we really have, right?
Which well with Joe Bendick, and you still obviously have Jakob Blessner.
Joe Bendick?
Joe Bendick's on
Joe Bendick still our backup.
To be called. Oh no, sorry.
No,
I was like,
oh no, call it up. No.
I mean, see,
I was like, what?
No. U.S. national team already put in their Nations League calls, and World Cup probably will not be too dissimilar. So no, I would not want Joe Bendick as personal as he is for the MLS for the Union. No, I don't want him anywhere near the Nations League. It's better than Mexico. Are you kidding me? 3-0 within 15 minutes.
Oh, poor Joe.
I love him, but no,
not at all. So it is definitely something to keep in mind. Yes, Steve, I'm with you. It truly does suck. It's the worst is that overseas, especially during their season, they're all off and we're all still playing while everyone's just doing their friendlies.
Yeah.
It's just like, we got Columbus this weekend. What do we want us to do?
Yep. We're gonna send some random guys to Columbus.
Seriously.
Our player, and especially this year with the oh my gosh, what have they called it again? I completely
Leagues
forget
Cup?
because yes, thank you. I struggle so much to take it seriously because they're pausing for. Right.
Wait, you mean the Garber Tam Gam,
right?
Tam Gam, Liga MX Money Cup. Is that what we're talking about here?
Thank you. The glorified preseason tournament for Liga MX.
Yeah, the only thing they
Oh my-
tried to make it important by saying, "Oh, you get a CCL spot." It's like, well, yeah, because the field's expanded in CCL.
And I'm like double checking, does Canada count? Because I'm sure you guys are aware, the
I'm sure
the
if
MLS spot was always US team only, Canada team. Like even the year Toronto won the treble, and we all hate Toronto, but even the year Toronto won the treble, they could not qualify to Canada to CCL without winning Canadian Championship.
yeah,
That was in
I think
2017.
I think that spot's.
I believe it's been opened, quote unquote.
Yeah. I think there's more avenues now too.
Yeah, no, I agree, but like, yeah, okay. As long as we're on the same page, because honestly, I'm not on the same page with my own co-hosts.
Oh
So-
no, trust me. I've been on the team. This is a glorified cash grab from the very beginning. So
Okay.
very
Okay,
much
so
involved.
I'm probably gonna be sliding in your DMs like early July to be like,
And just be
I'm
like, this
so
is bullshit.
bored.
This is bullshit. What are we
Why
doing?
am I paying money for this? Okay, perfect.
So I do have to ask. So
Yes,
I know Montreal does not like Toronto. So how is Montreal dealing with the Toronto saga? Are you guys like rejoicing with your popcorn?
Are you pulling out the popcorn like I am and just going, fuck Bob
I'm-
Bradley, fuck Michael Bradley? This is
Oh
great.
no, I'm like Bob Bradley. Like, keep going, my guy. Like,
What a mess.
like what? Oh, I'm living for it, honestly. You know, Montreal went to Toronto recently to play in the Canadian Championship quarterfinal.
I know you had a fight go viral in the States.
We had a viral moment, yes. So actually, Toronto just got a fine issued from Canada Soccer today because apparently they did not manage their security properly. That being said, I mean, I'm going to be the last person to cry for Toronto struggles, especially
Same.
given that they have the highest salary budget in the entire league. Yeah, no, I'm
Is
like,
that spent mostly on vapes? Was that what Bernadette's
I
Bernadette's
Hey, he's a
bonuses
vaper?
and vapes? Is
No,
that what
do vapes because the MLSPA releases their salaries? Do vapes count as part of the compensation package? I wonder. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I think that's why they were saying Insigne's party had a problem with the releasing because
Oh
it didn't
yes,
include
and the
some of the-
jacket ovo.
Yeah, and then Bernadette was mad. God, like it's a bad like soap opera.
Yeah.
It's like it
No,
reminds me of.
it's good in its own way. If you're on the outside, it's excellent.
Well, it reminds me like you remember? Have you ever watched the Netflix show? Was it 21 Thunder?
It's not Netflix though. That was on public television in Canada.
Well, so it came to Netflix.
Seriously?
It came to Netflix, and it was and some of the cheesy
They filmed in
storylines.
Stade Saputo, you know.
Yeah,
It was Stade Saputo, eh?
and some of the cheesy storylines. I'm like, this is what like people think soccer melodrama is, and like Toronto is living this.
Yes, exactly. No, for real. It was excellent to not only knock them out of the Voyageurs Cup, which is our Canadian Championship. It's also what we call it, and then to also blank them in MLS like 5 days later. Excellent. My mom actually came up for that match. She
That's all.
felt compelled the night before. She was like, "I must come." And I was like, okay. So for real, it was excellent. I am thrilled by it. Continue.
One of the most underrated rivalries in our league, that's for sure. Toronto
Thank
and
you so
Montreal.
much. I appreciate that. Go for it.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I'm just so glad that you are on the right side of the rivalry.
Of course. Yeah, we definitely don't like Toronto down here. That is
Excellent.
for sure. I did have to ask about Kyoto. I
Absolutely.
did hear about his injury. I also did hear rumblings from Honduras, from his old club Olympia.
Yes.
Maybe possibly having a little bit of reunion. Any thoughts or anything you've heard about that?
I would say it's very speculative.
Okay.
I guess I would not put a whole ton of stock to that rumor. He's
Right.
getting very well compensated with Montreal right now. He's, again, if we're to judge by the MLSPA figures, he's the second best compensated player in the entire club. And I mean, he's earned it. He put up an excellent season last year to bring Montreal to second in the East. And he had a lot of delivery that was certainly helpful, but he also carried this team when Georgi Mihailovic was out injured. So he definitely earned what he's making right now for Montreal. Therefore, I kind of struggle to imagine that. He is in the last year of his contract. And, he does have an injury history for sure. And I can imagine right now, given that it's such a crucial time with so many matches that he's missing through injury, I can see that definitely weighing into any potential negotiations for next season.
Okay, that's definitely something to keep an eye out for.
Yeah.
Back to the club a little bit here with Montreal
Mhm.
since we kind of last see. Has anything changed with the tactics since we last saw you guys?
One thing I will say is that Hernan Lozada definitely manages the start of his second halves a lot better than when we last played Philly.
Okay.
Because if you recall, Philly was able to come back pretty quickly inside, say, the first 15 minutes or so of the second half of the match at Olympic Stadium, right?
And then we choked it away.
And then things happened, and there was dramatic fire and the whole 9 yards. Yes, it was very much. I visited another Philadelphia podcast, and we talked about Canada After Dark, and I was like, "This is very much Canada After Dark." That fire sequence and the whole line. Yeah. So I think largely what has changed is Hernan Lozada's management of his substitutions, for sure. Definitely, there were some players who were just struggling in the early season. I don't know, our Canadian internationals, because they were at the World Cup, and that was obviously a very emotional experience for the Canadians because
For sure.
in their lifetime, we've never been to a World Cup. My lifetime as well.
82 or 88 was the last
Sorry?
one? Before this one, what was the last World Cup? Was it 82 or 88?
86.
86,
was when
yeah.
yeah, 86. So yeah. Yeah. So for anyone wondering, I am born after 1986. So, I think in the early season as well, for the Canadian internationals who traveled to Qatar, that did not help because that was obviously a huge experience for them. And, it didn't end on a great note. We didn't expect that, but so be it. I think that adjustment was maybe a little difficult. Maybe, their preseason prep was a little different. Not 100% sure. But I think definitely Hernan Lozada has learned his team a lot better, and he is not afraid to make subs quickly to adjust.
That's something definitely to note for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get into those lineups. Like you mentioned, it could be heavily rotated here. So what could that lineup look like?
I mean, if we look at, if I were to look at, say, who is your quote unquote de facto starter, because I understand Montreal is kind of playing catch up for how dismal the start of their season was, right? So there's a part of me that says maybe Hernan Lozada is going to look at this, especially given that they picked up 3 road points in Kansas City. But aside from that, the draw in DC was Montreal's 4th road point of the season. Out of however many matches they played on the road, I didn't pay attention. So I could almost see Hernan Lozada wanting to build on that momentum of actually coming back and picking up a point, because it's been kind of a spanking on the road. But I fully expect to see, obviously, José Roy in goal because he has been the starter. He's been the starter match in, match out, no matter what the competition. In the defense, unfortunately, Rudy Camacho got stretchered off the field. We haven't heard anything further about his injury, so I'm going to assume he's injured. I could see George Campbell, Joel Waterman, and Gabriela Carbo. They did actually play a match, those 3 together recently, and it went quite well against Miami. Obviously, Miami and Philly, though, are 2 different beasts. The only thing I will say is that probably Corbo has a lot more mobility than, say, if you were to place Campbell, Camacho, and Waterman. He's a little bit more agile than those 2, and definitely I think against Philly it would be really great to have him out there. In the midfield, obviously we'll have Victor Wanyama, no Sam Piet. Mathieu Choinière, he has been running to the ground, but Hernan Lozada insists he's good to go. So I fully expect Mathieu Choinière to start in the double pivot in front of that defense. With Ariel Lassiter, I think he earned a start, especially after his sub cameo, and Aaron Herrera on the right as our wingbacks. Bryce Duke has quieted down, but nonetheless, he's obviously the big money signing, and I expect that everyone wants him to do well, so why not start him? Followed by Sunusi Ibrahim had an excellent sub appearance against DC, goal and an assist. What more can you ask, right? And then Chinonso 04, I feel bad by saying it, but almost by default.
Okay. Well, you got we got your Toronto fans in here. Now Ryan's one of our good buddies here. Beat the Montreal boys.
No, the jersey and everything.
He does say Losada's got Montreal rolling right now, and he does hate that. He's being honest though.
I appreciate the honesty, and I appreciate the genuflection. Honestly,
absolutely.
No, I mean Montreal has been through some dark times, and obviously we've started Toronto enviously, and so I understand the feeling. Definitely Erlen Lozada has finally gotten a vibe going. I think he's finally learned to read his locker room, read his lineup, learn who the players he can really lean on are. And it was an adjustment, as it always is with a new coach. I understand Philly is not necessarily super accustomed to that because Jim Curtin has been there since time immemorial. But yeah, I'm actually shocked that Bob Bradley is still with Toronto.
Yeah, you know what too. Like I feel like because everyone knew that Hernan was master tactics, but it's not just being a master tactics when you're a head manager.
No.
You need to be able to connect with players. You need to be able to get these guys on the same page, and I think that's something he had to learn, and maybe he's figuring it out now.
Yeah, and I think I talked about it last time when I visited you guys. Was he had said kind of in his introductory conference was he knows he's a young manager. He knows he has a lot to learn, and definitely he made mistakes when he was with DC about how he handled players and certain aspects of managing them. So I think he has learned. I think he's demonstrating his learning. Again, Montreal was conceding goals in the first 15 minutes of the second half like clockwork in the first few matches of the season. But lo and behold, I mean, they've completely turned it around. Yes, they did concede in the 59th minute last night. But aside from that, overall, they've been a lot more solid coming out. So we can see development slowly but surely.
Absolutely. Wonder if we'll see George Campbell's family. George Campbell coming back home to
yes.
Funny enough, the last time when he was with Atlanta, and so I've never said the story. When he was with Atlanta, I think it was last season, and he was when they came.
He was with them last season, yeah.
So I was up at the beer garden on deck behind them, and I was talking with somebody. And we look over and we see a bunch of people, a tall, younger guy with a Campbell jersey. And I looked and I walked over. I walked over and I said, "Hey,
what are you doing here?"
No, I just said,
"I have a Campbell jersey."
No, I just said, "You guys would I said, you guys wouldn't happen to be like, I don't know, his family?" And they go, "Yeah, actually, we are."
Oh my god!
And we were talking, and he is a former Union Academy player.
Yes.
And it was kind of funny just bumping into his family and talking. And
that is so
they were
cute.
like, so I mean, listen, Atlanta got thrashed that day, but he would his family was so excited. So listen, I did kind of hope they come because they were nice people there. So that is my George Campbell story. This family was really nice
now they need a Montreal kit. Absolutely. Well, Justin, let's get that lineup, man. What do you think we'll line up with on Saturday?
I'll be cool with your A lineup.
So formation is going to be interesting. Obviously, as I always say, right in a permanent marker. Andre Blake with another clean sheet against Charlotte. He did have a little bit more work to do in the second half. Did make a fantastic save on Vargas not too long after he came off the field injured. So my gut would say transition back to a back four. But I think Ali, I think you've seen the success of the back three, and at least against Montreal, I do feel like the stability that the back three has provided while allowing Kai Wagner and Olivier Mbaizo to get forward. I think it's going to be one of those matchups where the wing backs may feature prominently, as I've said with a few teams where wing backs are predominant. But if that that left side is for open for exploitation, Olivier did have a very good game, and I think the back three does allow them to really get that space. So I'm going to stick with the back three. Damian and Jakob had very solid games stepping up. Jack really just had to do cleanup work behind that, and I think that's definitely what he's more comfortable with. The midfield, I'm going to stick with the same midfield because I'm not I'm still on the caveat that if Ali is strong enough, I think he will start. But that's still a big if. I know Jim was saying that it wasn't going to be obviously for Wednesday, but they were holding out hope for Saturday. So if he is healthy, he takes Leon's place. If not, it's the same midfield, and with Carranza and Ua up top, which, I mean, listen, they were both hassling that back line of Charlotte. Ua had some solid chances. Carranza, just off the mark, and it's going to be interesting because if Montreal does rotate, we saw that the Union could have probably put 2 or 3 past Charlotte, and if Losada's focus is on the can champ, which
it should be.
I would absolutely trophies over league play at this point, as we saw with the Union's early season run before
Exactly.
they, got into tournaments. I would say then that'll be the case, but it's always gonna be a tough matchup. Whenever I always say the Union are strong at home, but anytime Montreal, listen, I was there for the 3-3 draw where we were up 3-0. And it was a rainy day, and I remember that being
oh my god, I was at an airport for that match. I'm so sad.
So Union Montreal games have always been tough games. It's never been an easy. So
I would never put money on a winner.
Yeah, it's always tough. I'm always tough on the score line. Like it's always I can't put it.
I know.
At like I can't put it at more than a 1-goal margin because that's how these two teams have played each other.
No, for real. Like I think last time, we all predicted a Philly win, and who could have seen the end of that match coming?
Montreal pulling one out in injury time.
At least it stayed consistent with Carranza getting another red card.
He hates the Big O. He hates it.
Yeah, he hates playing at the Olympic Stadium apparently
with improved turf.
Yeah,
what more can we offer you?
I think the best Corey Burke match was against Montreal I've ever seen as well.
He scored against them for New York, eh?
Oh, my God. He's continuing his form. Well, this is always a fun matchup, but we do need some predictions here. So, Eve, you got to start it off here. What do you think is going to happen on Saturday?
I'm going to trust Hernan to rotate his squad because everything he said is he lives for the Voyageurs Cup, despite it being his first season in Montreal. But all right, if you live for it, I trust you. I'm going to expect Jim Curtin will play a pretty strong lineup as a result. I expect a huge lack of chemistry for Montreal that will definitely impede their success. And I'm going to give it to Philly on a 2-0 win.
2-0 win. Okay. Justin, what do you think is going to happen?
We talk about these 1-goal margin, and Eve throws the wild card with a 2-goal result, throwing me for a bit of a loop here. I think we talked about for the Charlotte matchup how they held together, well, pretty defensively, and it was like, I mean, listen, I think the Union, what was it, within the first minute, Carranza just bashes one off the crossbar, and it was like, oh, come on. It was one of those oh no, it's gonna be another 0-0 draw with with an expected goals of like 3, and it's just like,
Yeah.
oh, come on. So I definitely expect the Union again to come out a bit on the front foot. If it is a rotated lineup, I think you will kind of see what the Union were doing when they did get possession against Charlotte,
Right.
which was kind of taking it down the heart of the midfield. Like if you give them that space,
Yeah.
they're going to find that heart and then throw it out wide if they can, or throw it
Mhm.
through the channels, which the Union were getting a lot of against
Yeah.
Charlotte. I fully expect Hernan to, if he wants to shithouse his way to a draw, take a point on the road and focus on Can Champ.
Honestly, if Hernan pulls that off, I will worship the ground he walks on. And I was not I was not team Hernan until like about maybe 2 weeks ago, and even then I said tentatively.
Wow.
That is fair, especially
Steve.
after everything that happened in DC and the reports that I heard about
Right.
some of the player conditioning
Oh
and
yeah.
how things
Yeah.
ended.
No, exactly.
And I think obviously it seems like he
And-
has learned a bit on maybe
yeah.
like not cooling it on that side, but like understanding
No.
players do need rest. Players
They're
do, like,
humans.
yeah, there is a bit of
Exactly. And so
learning
no.
curve to this league.
Yeah. I saw the exact same thing as you, and I was like, this guy.
Yeah, that my first thought was, oh boy, you're on to Montreal.
I was like, oh my god, he's the almond mom of coaches.
yeah.
Ladies
Exactly.
and gentlemen, Eve is the president of the La Salle fan club. So there you go.
But I think it'll be. I think, you know what, I was gonna say 2-1, but after Eve's talking about focus on Can Champ and the rotate
Heavy
lineup,
considerations.
I think 2-0 sounds about right. I think that the Union, like at this point in the season, I think you've looked at where they were this season compared to last year. The Union are actually in a much better position because they didn't really get going until the summer. So if the Union are getting going now, with this point 8 undefeated in the league, I think this is kind of the right time to get it going. And for them, as Jim says, he loves the 1-0s. He loves the close results.
Well,
That's kind of how this team has operated for a lot. So 2-0 sounds about right.
absolutely. Before we head out, 2 more comments here from Ryan. I
Okay,
know.
I read one of them and I was like, what the hell?
I know
But
Eve's not
continue.
much of a USMNT person,
No, it's okay.
but thinks Curtin he's set up for the job.
No, for real.
I've talked about this with people. I think it would be crazy for a number of reasons. Obviously, they were waiting until Crocker and Gooch were thrown in to kind of obviously be the hiring point, and they've said that at least after the Gold Cup, probably the end of summer, is the realistic target. I don't see Jim leaving at that point, so it's gonna be someone who is ready to jump. And I also think he's not really finished yet. Like if he had won MLS Cup last year, I think maybe that's a different story. But I still feel like Jim has a bit of unfinished business here. So I would be shocked. I mean, it is a connection because Callahan was an assistant under Jim at one point, but I wouldn't put too much stock in it.
Even I don't follow the U.S. men's national team, but obviously I keep a slight tab on them because of Canada. And I'm like, that seems like a leap.
Which I did. Speaking of the Canadian national team, I was watching the U20s against New Zealand, and I didn't realize that John Herdman's son was on the
Jay
U20.
Herdman, yes, he plays for
I said that name,
Vancouver.
I'm like, wait, before the announcers even said it, I'm like, that there's
That
is
name
this the
sounds
coach's
familiar.
son? Like, I'm like, huh? I guess he's playing for New Zealand.
He plays for Vancouver.
Yeah, which is like, you're okay. You're
In club play. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then on that note, Ryan wants to let us know Hernan over Nancy.
Oh, those
that's
are
a
fighting
hot
words.
take.
That's a scorching one.
yeah.
Honest to goodness, I think Wilfred Nancy was able to bring the best out of Rudy Camacho after 3 seasons where we were all like, what is happening?
Dear God,
here?
why is this guy still here?
He's getting a lot of crap for that Pittsburgh loss. I'll tell you that, which is not his fault.
Oh,
US
they
Open
were
Cup,
upset by the Riverhounds in U.S. Open Cup. It was a cup. match.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking about Nancy. I was like Pittsburgh.
Columbus losing to
No.
Pittsburgh, US Open Cup,
Yeah.
upset special.
Yeah,
Columbus got a
okay.
lot of crap for it.
I love an upset. I would have
Same,
honestly.
same.
I would have.
Oh, it
been
was
team
great. And
upset.
someone who has a friend who is a Riverhounds fan, and she's getting older, it was
a great
great
atmosphere.
watching. I love the cup. Show.
No,
Right on the
same.
river. Oh.
No, oh my gosh. I watch, aside from the matches Montreal plays, every time that there is a match in any cup competition where the one league plays another, I'm like, come on. I am team underdog. I will cheer for Sunderland. I will cheer for the Lincoln City, whatever, like part-time plumbers, part-time soccer players.
Richmond AFC.
Yeah. Yes, Richmond. I have not watched the Ted Lasso finale, so please say nothing.
Yeah.
No, me neither.
I have not either, so no spoilers.
Nobody in the comments.
Thank you, friend.
I've been staying off of Twitter mostly because of this. I'm like,
Same.
I got like 3 more episodes till the finale.
No, but for real, I do think overall Nancy is a better tactician than Hernan, and as well, he was given a better squad to work with. So whatever Hernan can pull out, honest to God, is a victory.
Well, you know me, I love me some Nancy. I think he's a really good manager, especially in this league. But we'll see. Eve, it is always a pleasure having you on here.
I am so glad. Every time I get a little notification, I'm like, Duke by the river. It's my time.
It's that time. It's Union in Montreal time. Well, Eve, as always, let the people know where they can find your work and, of course, the great work of The Ball is Round.
Absolutely. So The Ball is Round podcast record every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. We do go live, just like these fine gentlemen. We are also on Twitter and Instagram at TBIR Montreal. And we are super grateful for everyone who tunes in.
Absolutely. Eve, thank you so much again. That's going to do it for this episode of DOOP by the River. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe. You're watching live on Barcelona Phillies YouTube channel. Follow us here on DOOP by the River podcast. And, of course, find us for every stream podcast under DOOP by the River podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Eve Julia. That is Justin Formation Change Gruder Friedberg. Of course, I go by the name of El Barcelona Philly. We're telling you guys to DOOP on. Talk to you guys next week.